My particular bottle, I knew I was going to have it with lunch today. We've got some nice lamb and we're having Mouton with it, Rothschild. What I actually did is I removed this wine from the cellar and I've had it stood up in an upright position, and I did that for two reasons. One is I wanted all the heavier sediment that had built up to go down with gravity to the bottom of the bottle, and two, I wanted that cork, which has been in contact with the wine for 35 years plus, which would be quite fudgy. I wanted it to just dry out ever so slightly, so it would hopefully make it a bit easier to remove. So the way I often think about wine is it's like a snow globe, and if I was to just pull, a bottle from the rack, this is sent to me in 2006, and I'm not going to be drinking it for a while. So if I did that, you can imagine all the sediment that's been resting along the back of the bottle is going to swirl all over, and this sediment is just naturally present in the wine. It tends to be made up principally of potassium bitartrate, which is like cream of tartar, which is what it's made from, and grape skins, and in particular these big robust red wines which are designed for maturity tend to have quite a lot of sediment in them. So the wines that we're looking at would be, your first growth Bordeaux's, your Grand Cru Burgundies, Barolo, Super Tuscans, some Aussie Shirazes, and some Cali Cab Sauves. They're made to be matured. That's what we're going to see and what we expect to see with these wines. So it's worth considering what storage your wine has been through. For example, I had this 1971 Château Mouton, delicious wine, and I'd flown over from London with the wine. It had been in my cabin luggage. You can imagine the snow globe, imagine all the sediments rolling around in that. I actually let this guy stand up for 10 days because I knew that I was going to be drinking it at a set time, and I really let it just get all that sediment to the bottom. Obviously we would not store our mature wines like that. That's why we have storage, keeping them on the side, keeping that cork moist. You never store them standing up, but if you're going to consume them, you want to, it's a good trick. In a restaurant and a bar, they tend not to have the luxury of doing that, so they'll store them and they'll decant it on their side as they've stored it. So here we are with this wine. I'll talk a little bit about it. It's the Rothschild family. They're a very powerful banking dynasty, and they've owned the estate since 1853. They bought the estate just so they could principally show off at their dinner parties that they had their own wine. It wasn't until the 1920s when Philip the Rothschild took over the estate. He really was passionate about wine, and he really wanted to elevate this wine to a first growth status. Under the 1855 classification of Bordeaux, this wine was not a first growth. The family felt it should be, and that's why they pursued to actually get it into the first growth status, which they achieved in 1973. Interestingly, what the family did, Philip the Rothschild introduced in the chateau for the first time, rather than sending barrels of wine to the negociant and having them sent off overseas, they actually did the bottling and labelling in-house for the first time. And this meant that they had total control over what was happening. And in 1924, when they first started doing this, they commissioned a contemporary artist at the time to do the label. This is something that they continue to do every year with a contemporary artist, collaboration with the label since 1945. And they have had Salvador Dali, Juan Miro, Chagall, Kandinsky, Picasso, Warhol, and more recently Anish Kapoor. And yeah, this particular label for the 1984 vintage, it's not George Orwell 84, it's Yakov Agam. He's a Middle Eastern artist, and he worked in kind of kinetic art, so you can see on the label there's some nice motion. And the vintage notes on this wine, it started off a pretty mild year. The heat came in with quite a high spike, and there was an early bud break. Very changeable throughout the summertime. That actually slowed down the whole ripening. It had a lot of rain and wet weather conditions in September. This particular harvest took place between the 5th and the 12th of October. So after the introduction, let's finally get to work on this. So bottle in position, label facing forward, got my good corkscrew. We go under the top of the bottle, where the bottles always have a slight ridge. You can see where I can remove the foil. Sometimes people remove all of the foil because it gives them a better view when they're decanting the wine. I like to keep it on. And hopefully there's not going to be any evidence of seepage or red wine. Hopefully we're going to see a clean top. So you can see it's pretty old cork. We've got quite a lot of mold on the top. At this point I've got my cloth, I'm going to just gently go around the side. I'm quite happy because I don't see any seepage. I can just see mold, which means that, fingers crossed, there's been no oxidation with this wine. Corkscrew right down in the center, label forward. It's very fudgy, and you just very gently with these wines screw down. And we want to go the whole way down, bearing in mind that this is a particularly long cork with this prestigious wine. There we are, nice and gently, all the way. So I've got it there because I'm going to pull this just around there. It makes it easier for me to do. So now in the two motions, firstly resting down, the cork is coming out, very gently pulling the cork out. I can see moisture. I'm going to move up to the second rung. You have to be very careful at this point because you don't want to twist too much and put too much. You want to go in an upward motion, and the upward motion is going to help us. I think we might have had a crack, not sure. At this point, I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I'm going to actually start using my hands to gently prise around the cork and twist with my fingers, almost forming like a clasp, very gently. And there's going to be a little air pocket in there. Fingers over, and there it is, cork out. But what I'm really happy with is the condition the cork is in. This bottle has been stored very well. I can see that. You can see that the bleed isn't too high on it. The concentration is down the bottom. There's red wine fruit smells rather than too much fungal smells. I'm just going to wipe the top of the bottle. I normally wouldn't do that with other wines, but with this particular one we'll just clean up the neck. What I do at this point, because I actually bought this as a single bottle, I didn't buy it in a case, I have the opportunity to return the bottle if it's faulty or damaged in any way. So I'll take my tasting glass, pour gently in, examine the wine. You can see that it, for a Bordeaux blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and Cab Franc, it's interesting to see it almost has it goes pale like you could expect with a Pinot Noir. Beautiful smell. It's very still, remarkably fresh, red fruits, still on the nose. A little bit of tobacco, classic Bordeaux nose. That's a superb wine. Now just to show how I'm going to decant this, I've got my mobile phone with my light. Got my decanter. Hold my bottle gently. I want to position the light just at the shoulder of the bottle. Tilt down my decanter. Let the decanter come down. Looking over the top. And we start it to go. Nice and gently. Now my view at the moment, I can see down through the shoulder and I can see right into the light of the mobile phone. There's clear, there's no traces of sediment. There we go, keep going. No sediment yet, which is great. The sediment normally comes up in a dark swirl, and the shoulder of the bottle which the light is positioned to should actually fit it. Now I can see the sediment and stop. So for this bottle I've got pretty good decanting because we've only have a very small amount of wine in the bottom of the glass, of the bottle, sorry. And we can see it's been successful with our wine, which is beautiful, and you can see it's really clear and lovely. This 36-year-old Château Mouton Rothschild is actually a lot fresher than I was expecting. I didn't know too much about the provenance of and the storage, which you got to be careful about, so I was worried that it might be not drinking to at its peak. It might be coming to past it because of the vintage, but this is absolutely terrific, and to be honest, there's still an abundance of fruits in there. Absolutely wonderful. Cheers, thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed the decanting of a mature wine at home, and I'll see you guys again soon.